Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
Man, it feels like a minute since we've actually gotten a chance to record because, the last 3 weeks, both in our personal lives and in the universe, everything that could go wrong just about went wrong, per usual. So,
Pretty much.
what can you do? So, in the face of all that negativity, what can you do but watch movies and have fun?
Damn right.
All you can do. And what more fun can you have than a Mike Flanagan horror movie?
Oh, my Jesus, what did you do?
Oh, you're welcome. As soon as I got that text of all caps, "fuck you, sir," at like 1
and I
a.m.,
wrote
I was
it
like,
vertically.
I was like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
give in to your fear. But before we talk about Oculus, this week's selection, we are actually going to run through a couple of questions that we've had pending. And our first question for the week comes in from the Bobby himself, the man, the myth, the legend. And Bobby writes in, "My dearest Screenplay Rewind, as the brutal heat continues to bear down on me through this heartless summer, you are my cool oasis in this ongoing conflict."
Aw.
Thanks, bud. You're my cool oasis too. He said, "Today we lost Jerry and all his cousins. The senseless nature of this conflict has me longing to be back in your arms, whispering sweet nothings in my ear." I did not read this email fully. My time draws short as the enemy nears again. Yours now and forever, Bob. And then after that is the question.
And then after
On that,
P.S.
I feel like Bobby is the Korg of Screenplay Rewind. Hey man, get aboard this giant ship, Monica. His question: if you could remove one film from the MCU, what would it be, and why is it the Eternals? Because that's my selection. I would remove the Eternals because I want my fucking 2.5 hours back, and that's
Is
the
that
only
all that
explanation.
movie was? It felt like it was 4.5 hours.
It felt like it was 4.5 years, dude. I think.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but that's my answer because fuck the Eternals. What's your answer, dude?
I struggled between that and the movie would have been so much better without Aquafina. It almost has to be Shang-Chi.
I think even with her in it,
Just to get her out of the MCU.
That's fair, but like I would rather watch Shang-Chi with Aquafina than watch the Eternals mope around in the boringest parts of history. Like they're able to fully access literally all of history. And they're hanging out in like Mesopotamia as the wheel's being invented. Like that's the most interesting thing you can come up with. Really? Okay. They didn't even, you know how like X-Men Origins Wolverine pissed everyone off because it was just like we really wanted to see like Wolverine fight in all the wars, and it's like a 45-second montage. We didn't even get that in the Eternals. We didn't even get teased. They just did nothing because that movie fucking blows.
I need my foreplay, damn it. Yeah, I don't know. It's the Eternals, but it's just, oh my god. If
Aurora
you
actually refuses to watch. Is it? I don't know how to pronounce. Is it like Raya in The Last Dragon or whatever?
yeah.
Because I think Aquafina is the voice of someone in there, and she like refuses
She's
to watch
the dragon.
it. Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that why she's the last dragon? Because all the other dragons heard her talk and killed themselves.
Like, I don't know why we're trying to save the dragon. Just make it extinct. If they're all bad, not charming Gilbert Gottfried, then get rid of them.
Exactly. You just want to see
Hi, schmucks!
Raya the last
dragon.
Raya the Last Dragon just get fucking decimated by Drogon from Game of Thrones. Much better movie. And I think
Also, it's just not a good movie.
I haven't seen it, but
Don't.
I digress. Thank you for the question, Bobby. If anyone else wants to email us, you can always send stuff in to us. screenplayrewind@gmail.com, or send us tweets of your questions and or prompts at SPR Filmcast. And I think Ron had a question for the show as well, right?
Yes, I do. And I'm trying to get back to the text I sent you to get it the way I had worded it. Okay. This comes from Christina, my wife. If you could have any fictional food or drink from any movie or TV show, what would you have? Emphasis on the fictional when I was writing that text to you.
Why don't you go first since I went first on the first question?
Slurm.
That was actually one I was thinking of. Slurm.
Even though I know where it comes from. Slurm. That, or I was thinking of, do you remember early on, I want to say, in the Futurama run, when Fry goes to that bar and he gets that like atomic drink that it's like in a martini glass, and he drinks it and you see it glowing in his belly? Either Slurm or that. As much Coke Zero as I drink, it's probably going to be Slurm.
Coke Zero is pretty fucking good, to be fair. I'm drinking it right now.
Dude, Bobby, when he came over for 4th of July, grabbed a Coke Zero, and he just like slammed it on the table, and he's like, I'm sorry to tell you, that doesn't taste like Coke. I'm like, it's not meant to, buddy.
Yeah.
It's not meant to. That's the point.
It's Coke Zero, not like Coke Plus. Like, it's not supposed to be like...
This ain't new Coke.
Yeah. Can I cheat the question and say I'll eat the fictional pill in Limitless that like unlocks 90% of my brain and like a superhero?
Is that a food or a drink though? That's a pharmaceutical.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I'll cheat the question. But can I choose the mountains of anime food that Goku can eat in like 5 seconds? Because I've always wanted to do that. That always looks really fun.
I was trying to think of something from anime.
Because like you ever see them like in every anime, like the main character just walks up to like a table and there's just like 500 bowls of awesome looking anime food just piled on top of each other, and they just like devour it, and it's like, yes.
The thing, what immediately popped in my head, and I had to think around it because it kept coming back to the forefront of my mind, was Chris Evans in The Losers, and he's supposed to be the hot dog vendor, and he's just like, these hot dogs are delicious, and he's just eating them one after the other.
Yeah. Or maybe we'll pick the falafel from Batman Begins.
I have kids to feed. What, they don't like falafel? What a dick thing for anyone to say to anybody.
Right.
Like, oh my God. I wouldn't say it to someone I hate, I don't think.
It's so fucked up. Isn't it funny how the most random one-off shit like that falafel line is what becomes the meme?
Yeah.
It's like, to this day, Batman Begins is almost like 20 years old, and we remember the fucking falafel line. Fucking nuts.
Because it's like, what, half a second after that, he gets zip-lined up to the top of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Batman Begins will be on this podcast at some point.
Yes, it will.
And then we probably have to commit, and then just finish the trilogy and talk about Rises, because
do we have to do the trilogy? Why can't we just
I think people want to hear it. I think Bobby wants to hear us just yell into the microphone for like
into
an hour and a half. Yeah, into the microwave.
We're thinking about food now.
If I have to watch Dark Knight Rises again, I'll just stick my head in a microwave. And then by that point, I'll probably actually sound like Bane when I talk.
I just got the visual of you doing that, but it's like South Park when Stan walked by Randy with his nuts in the microwave. Like, I just imagine Aurora walking by, then stopping and slowly walking backwards. Like, what are you doing?
You really adopted the microwave.
Oh my God.
I think I can't think of a better note to end the question and part of the show on. If anyone else has any questions, again, please be sure to email us, screenplayrewind@microwave.com. Yes, new URL and everything. But yeah, we are here this week to talk about a movie I have wanted to have on the show for a minute, because Ron had never had the pleasure of watching a Mike Flanagan horror movie, because holy shit. do you get acquainted with the pit of your stomach when you watch a Mike Flanagan horror movie? Because they are intense, like the whole runtime just about.
This one had been on my list for a little bit.
Yeah, it is. I can't remember what order of his stuff I was introduced to. I became like full blown whatever you make, I watch day one after The Haunting of Hill House.
Mm-hmm.
But this might have been like the first thing of his that I had seen, and I've always really, really liked this movie because I think this movie is obviously it's Lovecraftian, so it's my type of catnip. But I think it's just like a damn good movie. I find very, very few issues with it.
What's funny is of the movies.
Spoilers for Mike Flanagan's Oculus. It's 2013. It's kind of hard to find because if you type in Oculus, you just get 5,000 results for the Oculus Rift, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, it's well worth your time if you like horror at all. Please watch the movie before you listen to us talk about it, because there's a lot of moments in this movie that are just like shocking with how brutal they are, and you kind of want to see it. You don't want to have it told to you because it loses some of its impact if you don't, because like you just get sucked into this movie even if you know what happens. I watched this like 4 times, and like I watched it tonight, and I'm still just like on the fucking edge of my seat, like holding my breath with how just like you can cut the tension with a knife in some of the sequences.
I can totally see this being a movie that you find something new every time you watch it.
Oh man, that's like Mike Flanagan just like gets what I want out of horror. Like on that note, like one thing that famously happened with like the Haunting of Hill House show is all throughout the season of the show, he just has actors as stand-ins, as ghosts in the background, and they are never drawn attention to. Sometimes you can't even really tell they're there. They're just kind of like obscured. But all throughout the show, there are just ghosts just watching the actors within the scene.
Damn.
And it's shit like that I love, where he just like gets that horror is so much more effective when it's just like a moody tone and like an atmosphere instead of like jump scares, because he just lets creepy shit happen in the frame, and often it's not really a scare. It's just you know, it's just there, and it's not meant to be like in your face horror. It's just like tension horror, which I prefer.
It's interesting how I haven't really seen much of anything that Mike Flanagan has done, but just about everything he's written and directed is like in my list of things to see. I've just never gotten around to him. So this is the first time I've actually seen something that he's written and directed and apparently edited.
Mm-hmm.
Which that means you're seeing like his full on vision for the movie.
Yeah, he is, especially with the TV shows. He's very, very hands on with what happens throughout the like entire duration of the shows. It's interesting. This movie actually originates. It was like a short film of his, and the backstories that you see when they start talking about like the different people in the past that had the mirror are like basically different chapters of what would have been like short films, kind of short stories of this mirror. And he had one. It was Oculus Chapter 3, The Man with a Plan. This was like one that he actually like, you know, produced and turned into a short. It was one setting, one actor, and just the mirror, and it had a lot of acclaim just because Mike Flanagan knows what the fuck he's doing. And he ended up, once they were able to kind of get it greenlit, he turned it into this horror story that is centered around a family, and that is a running theme throughout all of his works. Okay. Pretty much everything he's done centers around horror elements that are surrounding a family. That's like pure Haunting of Hill House, and it's also kind of present in Doctor Sleep, because if you think of like, I don't think you've seen The Shining, but and that's one on my short list to actually have on the show. But he was a perfect person to pick for a follow up to that, because The Shining is horror elements surrounding a family. So you can tell, I think The Shining was a big influence on what his types of stories end up being.
I was looking at the actress that plays Marie here real quick before we get into the cast, because it was driving me nuts when I was watching it. I know I'd seen her. I knew I'd seen her. I just couldn't figure it out. She was Bo-Katan on The Mandalorian.
Oh, Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah.
Most people are familiar with her from the Battlestar Galactica show.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but what I found when I was looking at that is she apparently did a voice on Futurama. It's the internet episode, and her name is Irreconcilable Differences.
Nice.
It's just a bunch of repeating letters throughout the name. Irreconcilable differences. That's what I was laughing at.
Let's run down the rest of the crew and the cast and everything, and then we'll kind of like delve into the actual like plot and sequences that we'd like to talk about. So we've talked multiple times about Mike Flanagan. This is like, especially like the shows, like you have, if you like this, you will really like Hill House, and Midnight Mass was really fucking cool. He just, man, I just love his work. But he co-wrote it, and it was based on a short screenplay where he had actually written the original short film that he had directed, that ended up being like the influence for this. He co-wrote it with Geoff Howard. Geoff Howard is one of his co-writers that has popped up on a few things that he's done, such as Gerald's Game and Before I Wake. Before I Wake is probably the only Mike Flanagan thing that he's done that didn't fully land for me, just because the movie got kind of like fucked over by the studio, famously, which is a shame because it was a pretty cool concept. It just kind of got fucked over. But let's talk about the cast. So the lead, the primary lead is Karen Gillan. People know from Doctor Who and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which is why this was on my list for a long time.
And she's very good in this. She's very, very good.
She's pretty good in anything she's in.
True. She plays
her stint in Doctor Who, Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean,
and just like thinking of like how different those two performances are.
Yeah,
you know, she has like underappreciated range, even though she's fucking, super famous. It's,
yeah.
She plays Kaylee Russell, who is the daughter of a family of 4. Her brother is Tim Russell, played by Britton Thwaites. He's been in a couple things people will recognize. He plays Dick Grayson in the Titans show. And he was also, I believe, Philip in the first Maleficent movie.
Yes.
Those are the two like things he's in recently. We mentioned Katie Sackhoff.
Oh, he's Henry Turner in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Gotcha. Oh, I never saw Gods of Egypt. That was on my list too, even though everybody hated it.
Which means it'll probably be your favorite movie of all time.
Probably, yeah.
Katie Sackhoff, as we mentioned, plays Marie, who's the mom of the family. And Rory Cochrane, I believe is how you pronounce his name, plays Alan Russell, who's the dad. And basically the only other 2 actors of note are, I actually think, especially the young Kaylee actress. I think the kids are very good, especially yes. the actress playing young Kaylee is fantastic in this movie. She would actually go on to be the lead in Flanagan's Ouija prequel movie.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in the list. I was like, whoa, now I'm interested in that franchise.
Well, yeah, it was really funny. That was the exact reaction everyone else had, because the first Ouija movie happened and it was garbage. And then they were announcing a prequel for it, like, oh, this is going to be shit. And it was Flanagan attached to it. And it's like, oh, shit, this is actually good because they have a competent guy making the movie. Imagine that. And it's the same thing. It's like a horror element surrounding a family. And he always makes these, like, since he centers them around a family, he's able to actually have like an emotional connection between like the viewer and the characters.
Yeah.
They're not like cannon fodder, they're actual characters, because he's like interweaving the supernatural elements of the horror stuff with characters that are having like real life drama. And when you have characters that have that type of, trauma and traumatic things happen in their backgrounds, you latch onto them more. And we'll talk about that. I think the editing in this is really good too, as far as when it's flipping back and forth between the past storyline and the present.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Gets hard to tell after a while.
Yeah, true. Garrett Ryan plays young Tim, also good in the film. And Kate Siegel plays Marisol Chavez, the kind of like main figurehead for what is the supernatural element of this movie, the mirror. Right. Kate Siegel is the best character in Haunting of Hill House. She plays one of the daughters of the family, and she's really, really great. She's also the lead in one of his other movies that's on my short list that I like to have on the show that I think you really like, called Hush.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
Is very, very good. She plays the lead in that, and it's another Flanagan. I think he wrote and directed it. I know he for sure directed it, but yeah, it's on my short list. They're actually now married in real life, him and Kate Siegel. pretty cool. She now helps like with some of the writing and stuff for the movies. It was kind of like it became like a writing team almost. Pretty cool. So yeah, let's talk about so when you watched this, did you really have any idea like what the plot was for the movie? I'm assuming you kind of could figure out just pretty quickly that it's about this like really really interesting what's basically just like a giant creepy fucking mirror that's as soon as you see it you're like, why would you buy that?
Don't give away the movie.
Why would you buy that and bring it into your home?
Seriously.
It looks terrifying.
Yeah, it's a terrifying looking piece. I'm looking at it in the poster. Yeah, no, the only thing I knew about it is that it had Karen Gillan, that it was about a mirror and it was a horror movie, and just whatever first the Netflix description had, then Hulu. It moved to Hulu eventually, and that's where I watched it. That was
same.
That was all I knew about it going in. No, like I said, no experience with Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, and it's almost like better to go into this not really knowing the full extent of it, because it's kind of cool the way that it plays out. The movie is based around this haunted mirror, who you end up finding out is and brilliantly never explained. I love that we still don't even know what the fuck we're dealing with, and that's actually one of like the things that is a big influence for Flanagan is Lovecraft himself. Flanagan has actually been on like record with talking about this film and its production, where he actually said it's an alien force that even we're trying to comprehend it completely, it would drive you mad. He expanded, evil in the world doesn't have an answer. So that's a big kind of driving force for this movie, is it's a Lovecraftian object, and the main character here, played by Karen Gillan, is through and through a Lovecraftian protagonist, in that her like just pure obsession to learn more about this thing that she should not be fucking with.
You survived it. Move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like a common theme in a lot of Lovecraftian protagonists. It's like they have so many opportunities to just walk away, but they're so obsessed with learning these otherworldly things that they should not be messing with, and it ends up being their downfall. And yeah, this is like, I think one of the best. I think this is one of the best, because like obviously The Lighthouse is like a wonderful Lovecraftian movie, but I think that is more explicitly Lovecraft than this. This is just more in like theme. Like you're not getting your elder gods.
This is in the vein of this is not trying to mimic Lovecraft. This
exactly. You don't have an elder god here. You don't have Cthulhu type.
You have
you don't have. Yeah, you have the theming and you have the character arc. You have like the horror concept and then like the character arc of Lovecraft. And I think it's a really, really great representation of how you do Lovecraft well without just kind of piggybacking off of the popularity of Lovecraft. Like, he really gets it.
Right.
And also, I what I really, really like about her character is she is like way too obsessed with this, but she's not an idiot. Like, you have to commend like when she breaks down like her game plan to get revenge on this mirror that basically like ruined her family.
Right.
Because the thing that kind of like starts off the movie is her brother, who's now turning 21, is being released from a sentencing where he was basically in his teens committed to a mental institution for killing his dad. And I also like the way too that they don't just kind of drop all the exposition at the beginning. Like, it's kind of like slowly dealt out over the course of the movie, to where you don't even fully know like what happened until the very end, as the horror elements are happening in like the current timeline. It's a really cool and interesting way, because if you just like did this movie as a lot of worse writers would do, as far as we're going to do like the prequel sections up front, and then we're going to have like almost like a little like time jump, and then it's going to happen, and it just makes it less interesting. I think like the presentation of the story is part of the thing that makes it cool.
The movie uses the mirror's backstory to show you the rift that is now developed between brother and sister also, because there's an entire scene where Karen Gillan is just listing encyclopedic knowledge of the mirror basically to the audience, with the brother on looking in horror like this is fucked up and calling out her shit, calling out like what would be plot holes in the story, right? Like calling out all kinds of stuff, and just kind of their back and forth on that. Also,
she's so obsessed. Even her career path was based around this, because she set herself up in this kind of, I forget like what her role is, but it's like an auctioneer, right? Of these like weird kind of classical pieces of furniture.
Yeah, she finds it's got a name. I can't think of it, but there's another show I watched that the main character had that exact same job.
Yeah.
But yeah, she basically like tracks down and procures things to sell at their auction house.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, tries to get people to sell their stuff at their auction house.
And it basically comes across like the only reason she ever did it was just to track down the mirror, because that was the only way that she'd ever have like the full resources at her disposal to be able to track this fucking thing down and destroy it.
And then she steals it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like about that, whatever the fuck someone paid for it. I want to know her plan for dealing with that.
I just don't think she cared.
I don't think she did either.
It almost felt like she's like, "Fuck it, fire me. I don't care." Like she just this was her life obsession was just to get back at this mirror, and you can't really blame her because ruined her family. There's a lot of interesting things too with this movie, where for the first half of it, you don't even know if it's actually like a supernatural object, which is cool.
Right.
It's really not until they're at the house in the present and they see that all of the objects in the room have been rearranged. That's like the first time it's actually really confirmed.
Right.
Because everything that you see as far as like all the spooky shit happening could just be like mental illness. Because that's like one of the main dividing lines
that's
between
what they're
them.
Setting up the whole first half of the movie is trying to get the audience to figure out which one they want to decide to believe.
Yeah.
Right, because that's the argument the brother keeps making. Versus she is so sure. Right.
Yeah.
And at this point, when you're getting the flashbacks, I don't think in the flashbacks there's anything too supernatural happening yet.
The only thing at that point that you've seen happen is they've seen the woman Marisol, who's one of the ghosts tied with the mirror, interacting with the dad, but only seen briefly and just kind of like vanishes. They can't really explain how, like they're seeing her in the dad's office, but then she disappears.
Right.
And you see her as her kind of like ghost form seen like early on by the dad, but again, you don't know if that's him seeing things or if she's actually if it's an actual ghost.
When they start framing it so that the wife starts believing he's having an affair, it's just like Alan never locks himself in his office at home. Was what I could think of from Airplane. Like, he never has a second cup of coffee at home. He never throws up at home. Yeah.
And part of the backstory is the brother has been in a mental institution for a decade where the doctors have just been telling him that he's crazy the entire time. And if you've been told something like that for that long, you start to believe it. And
from
he's
that
kind
young too.
And when he's that young, especially, and he starts basically trying to flip the script and spew out all the things that he's been preached at by these doctors and medical professionals. He starts kind of like projecting it onto his sister, where we didn't actually see this stuff. You had a traumatic event happen as a kid. It's all in your head. He doesn't believe her, even though he saw this shit happen in the past too. He's basically just kind of like mentally blocked it, almost as like a defense mechanism, where he starts to remember it over time, but he does not believe it at first until it's basically too late. Like once they, that's another thing too. We'll talk about, man. The ending of this movie is fucking brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Like it almost catches you off guard with just how, because like, obviously the movie is like very dark, but it's a fucked up ending.
Yeah, but before we start moving that direction though, I want to talk about the thing that struck me about this movie when I was watching it is the structure of the movie. The way past events and current events are woven throughout the movie together, and
Masterclass.
it's showing you that it's basically history repeating itself. All the same events are starting to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that struck me when I was watching it is I was like, everything that I have seen that has happened in the past would have been the first hour or so of this movie if it had been done by anybody else.
Yeah.
It would have been all in a row, you know, not necessarily boring or uninteresting, but just like any other horror movie out there.
Yeah.
And weaving
it's
in.
It's not that it's not interesting in that way, it's just less engaging in that way, I'd say.
And what's interesting about it is it's doubling down on getting the audience to wonder if this thing is actually supernatural or not. Like who to believe. Because again, this is history repeating itself, but you're seeing both current and past events happening simultaneously. So, you know, for the first hour or so of this movie, is this a supernatural event? Is she crazy? Was he crazy? Like what is going on? But yes, less engaging, you're right, is the better way to put that. I couldn't think of a good way to say it.
And I think it's just like expertly done. And the way that the movie just kind of, because it is like a better way, I think, because of the way that the movie kind of like skips back and forth, to have you kind of, it's interesting. It's like they're giving you a lot of like exposition with how she's talking about like and what's interesting too is like you can see like all of the fucked up backstories they had, you know, that were going to be chapters if it was like a continuing series of short films, you know, like with all the creepy shit that happened to the other people that end up becoming ghosts with the thing.
I could also see someone that if someone else had this vision of this movie, I could also see all the backstory we get from Karen Gillan, like everything that would have happened to Karen Gillan would have been like the last 30 minutes of the movie, and everything else would have been just the history of this mirror leading up till now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's used as a tool, and the fact that it's not necessarily everything planted in detail, that ambiguity and that lack of detail really does a lot of work towards just kind of screwing with the audience, more or less.
And there are some moments in this that are hard to watch. Like, dude, the Band-Aid scene where he,
that was when I texted you.
That's what you texted me?
That's what I texted you.
Because I couldn't tell when you texted me that if it was you developing a permanent fear of staple removers or a permanent fear of light bulbs, because both happen in this movie.
Or did it?
Yeah, man. There's a sequence where the dad is like the first target because his office is the room where the mirror is, right?
Yeah, his proximity to the mirror.
He's basically just like immediately taken over by this ghost that lives within the mirror. And
is there? Okay, we don't know. There's a lot of ambiguity in this movie, but is there a single force in this mirror? Is it the mirror itself? Like, is there a ghost in the mirror?
I think you're like right on all accounts.
I think you're meant to not know, basically.
Yeah, you're meant to not know because like what I take away from it is the mirror is haunted and it's basically using these people that it's like coerced and kind of mind controlled as like it's like puppets almost. Where it's like when you see Marisol, it is Marisol. She did go, you know, like they all did go crazy kind of in service of the mirror, basically.
Okay, so
yeah.
The way I was looking at it, I don't know if you want to say this type stuff for the end of the podcast, but the way I was looking at it is it was almost like the mirror itself had a will, it was exerting, and it was acting out through the people around it. But I don't feel like the ghosts that we saw are like ghosts, or that they are like captured spirits or anything. I think they are just the reflections of the people it has seen throughout the years. I think they're still just an extension of the mirror. I don't think they're like souls of the damned or even ghosts. I think they are, as because there's a the reason that made me think about this as I was thinking about it is they talk about how it has to gather strength because it's been in storage for so long. And it's not until like projections of people it has fucked up start coming out until it's a long time in. It gathers a lot of strength before it starts projecting outward. It makes me feel like it's not being inhabited by ghosts or spirits. Like it's the object itself has a will of its own, and it's acting through reflections of people that it has fucked with.
It's like using like victims as like a vessel almost. And
but it's not really.
Like they're.
It's like, but the ghosts that you see walking around that are the other people are not spirits or ghosts, but just literally reflections from inside the glass.
But they also could be.
They also could be
because the mirror is actively protecting itself and making the people become obsessed with it. It's like it likes fucking with these people in horrible ways, but it also likes being like pawned over.
I was trying to figure out what exactly it fed off of, because
it seems to just be kind of like just general life force, because like it's killing plants around it.
I took it as suffering is what it was feeding off of more than anything.
Because it could be life force too, because the plants are decaying if they're in a certain radius. I think Karen Gillan says it's like 30 feet at one point around, like kind of like a radius around the mirror. And it also, at some point in the movie, the family dog is put into the office where the mirror is, where no one else is, and the dog just disappears.
Yeah.
So you can't really, and it's like every element of the mirror is up to interpretation. That's so cool because it makes it so much more fascinating and scary when you don't have like. You don't even know like the rules of this thing.
Yeah,
you don't know shit about it, and that's just one of those things where it's
fear
like
of the unknown.
You gotta love Kaylee's plan, and her plan is pretty sound. Like she has so many like
you don't know if she's right or wrong, but based on the information the characters have, it makes sense.
In this room, she has more contingency plans than fucking Batman. It's insane. She has, timers to get them to remember to eat, to remember to drink. She has her fiance calling her like every hour,
or does she
to check in on them? I love that line like halfway through the movie where she has a call coming from the fiance. She answers it, has like a quick little conversation with him, and hangs up. And she's like, "I'm like 50% sure that was him," and it's like, "Fuck, dude, y'all need to run." Like. That dude,
like, what are you doing?
I think we got cut off from talking about it, but the scene I was telling you about earlier, where it's like just hard to watch, is the dad.
Yeah.
The dad is.
I cut you off for a reason.
The dad is like he's apparently, according to the mom, it's kind of like he nervously chews his fingernails, but at one point
here's the thing, like. The thing that confused me is we hadn't seen him doing that until after the mirror shows up, and then she's just kind of like, why are you doing that?
Well, she has a line at some point in the movie where she talks about him being he nervously chews his fingernails, but
I just heard her say don't be like your dad, or don't do that like your dad or does, or something like it's But I don't know. I could be wrong. I had a lot going on when I was watching this movie.
You said you ended up watching it at night when you didn't plan to.
That was not my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shit, dude, I watched this like 4 times. I was scared. I was watching the daylight today. I got scared in a couple scenes because it's just fucking freaky.
Scared the daylights out of you.
He and then like one like recurring trope throughout the movie is that the characters are like seeing something happen around them, but it's not actually what's happening. The dad is he's like kind of like fucked with his fingernail to the point where it's bleeding and he has a band-aid over it. He has a vision of himself pulling the band-aid off, setting it down next to his keyboard, and then like 5 seconds later the band-aid's back on. He's like, what the fuck? So he grabs a staple remover because he's having problems removing this band-aid because it's just stuck to his finger. And he has this vision of himself using the staple remover to just like rip off the edge of the band-aid to be able to, just be able to pull it off. And then it cuts into what's actually happening, and it's him fucking removing his fingernail. And like, dude, the effect of that is so good. I oh my god, it hurts to watch.
But doesn't it like he didn't at the same time? Like, doesn't it cut back to where like he's fine or something afterwards?
I think so, but then you also see one little element they don't really draw attention to either that I love is the dad throughout the movie consistently starts to acquire more and more band-aids over his fingernail.
Really?
Yeah. If you watch and track the dad's scenes like throughout the movie, every few scenes he'll have like an additional band-aid where he's just been removing his fingernails. Really cool. Really cool detail. Oh, that's how cool is that scene where the kids try to get help with the neighbor?
Yeah.
And he just has this like casual conversation with the neighbor, the dad, and he has his hand up against like the pillar of the
the
banister,
smeared wall.
And all of his fingernails are missing on that hand. There's like blood leaking from his hands. Like, oh, it's so good.
Jesus.
Also, the dad's really good too. Like when you can tell that it's the dad talking versus when you can tell that it's the mirror using like him as a conduit to talk is really good. Like I love and it's also just like a good little piece of writing when all of a sudden he calls the kids princess and champ.
Yeah.
And you can tell like that's the mirror because the mirror is just talking through him. It's like, oh, that's such good writing, dude. Love it.
Yeah, the dad in this, I was thinking he's so good, but I kind of want to see him as Harvey Bullock in something.
I could see that.
I also I was thinking before we started the podcast, there's a little bit something about his performance. I can't quite put my finger on it, but his performance kind of reminds me of like Billy Burke a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a little Billy Burke-esque. But yeah, no, the dad is really good.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and like just like the way he just descends into madness because he's just bought this. And what a shitty way to have like your entire family fucked over is you just happen to buy like he's got like what seems to be like a brand new job. Like they're finally making like good money. Like they bought this super nice house, and he just kind of like, and it's you can't even tell too, because of the history lesson that she gives about like when the mirror has been hidden away or lost in history and then just like resurfaces. There's also a thing you can like read into this where the mirror is the mirror, is actually like picking and choosing people. It's very likely and very possible that the mirror hand picked this family because it has a mind of its own and is like maneuvering around from fucking like not only state to state but like continent to continent because it originated in like I think they said London.
Yeah.
Like the first time, and what's also a cool detail, the first like recorded history of it. It could date back even further, but that's just like the first time that she says there's like a recorded history of it. So it's even fucking older than that because like it's just this fucking creepy ass Lovecraftian object that God knows where it came from. But
like, where is goddamn Department of Control, dude? Like, is this thing not an AWE? Like, I don't understand where the fucking Department of Control is, or what was it, Warehouse 13? Like, where are they?
No joke, dude.
Like what are they doing? Our tax dollars at work. God,
it belongs in a museum, Ron.
It belongs hidden in the back of a museum, permanently covered.
The scene that most fucking traumatized me when it comes to this movie is that fucking light bulb scene, dude.
Yeah, that was something.
It's something.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's the scene I thought you were referring to when you texted me that. I was like, oh yes, you got to that scene because like the nail thing is fucked up, and that's the first like fucked up thing you see. But man, just like her reaction as she is biting into an apple throughout a scene. And one of the things they're doing is they're having to replace light bulbs because the thing is just like constantly knocking out the power and destroying the light bulbs and just destroying like all like things of energy and electrical currents around them gets constantly getting fucked up. And she sets down a fucking apple next to a light bulb and she's just casually eating this apple. And then she turns it around and you don't see it, but the mirror has ostensibly made her accidentally grab the light bulb without realizing it, and she takes a bite thinking it's the apple, and just the sound effects. And then just like how much blood is in her mouth and her reaction to it is fucking haunting, dude.
Dude, when she starts pulling that giant sliver of glass out of the roof of her mouth.
When she spits and you just hear the like dozens of shards.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good, but so terrible. Holy fuck. It's so good.
You want to know how dumb I am?
How dumb are you, sir? How dumb is he?
How dumb are you? It was near the end of the movie when I realized their eyes aren't glowing. Their eyes are mirror.
Oh yeah,
their eyes
That's
are mirrors.
It's a cool effect too. Like it makes them very, very creepy. Just like the way that they actually have like in the scenes where they're close enough, they actually have like full blown reflections in their eyes too, which is cool.
Yes.
Oh man, this fucking movie.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some like more good performances? Katie Sackhoff at the end when she is this like full blown feral.
Yes.
Is terrifying. Like that scene, like when it's really heartbreaking too. Is the dad comes home at one point when the mom has just officially lost it, right?
Right.
She's been going after the kids. He goes up and is able to kind of like only way to restrain her from like attacking the kids is to put her in a chokehold, and he's in the midst of calling the cops to come help because he knows something is terribly wrong. But at that point, he gets fully possessed by the mirror, and when it hard cuts of him just like so like gently like like holding her, and you know like he obviously still loves his wife at this moment, but when it hard cuts to him dragging her out of the frame, you're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch, and when you see what happens to her, he fucking has her chained up in their bedroom, and he absolutely refuses to let the kids go in and even see her. And man, if you just have a thing with teeth, like this is a hard movie to watch, because later on when it just shows the mom chewing up the plate, and that sound effect, dude, like that the fucking Foley work in this movie, they all
it's
did
both
not
brilliant
get paid.
and god awful.
Yeah, they did not get paid enough, because it's stuff that is actually haunting. Like just some of the scenes that it's just hard to watch. And like when you later see when she's like strangling young Kaylee at the end, and you see what's happened to her teeth because of it, it's like, oh, dude, please.
The real insidious thing is when basically it lets her come back to her senses as she's strangling the life out of her daughter just in time to be shot by the father.
I know, dude.
Like,
this fucking movie.
Jesus Christ.
It really pulls no punches. His movie before, I think it's Absentia. Let me see. Let me just verify. Another movie, I think it was his first. So this was like his first like fully produced by like an actual company, right? But his first movie that he directed, period, that was kind of like a little like passion project that was like crowdfunded, is a movie called Absentia or Absentia. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. But there's a scene in that is even more dark than anything in Oculus, if you can believe that. Like,
Jesus.
It's like, and what's interesting too is he actually has talked about his early works, like the way the Oculus ends, the way that like some of the shit happens in Absentia, and he's just like, this shit was dark. I don't know if I could write that like this at this time. It's like he's like almost like softened as a horror writer over time a little bit because he's like, God damn, this shit was brutal back then.
What is wrong with me?
That was going through a rough patch, man.
I was in a room with the walls painted black. Yeah. No, some of this shit is pretty insane just in this movie. I can't imagine anything being darker.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think part of, the fact that it's the parents doing these things to these children is one of the reasons why it feels so gross and wrong and so bad. Because, I mean, there's supposed to be nothing more safe than your home and being with your parents.
Yeah.
And
it's fucked up to think about too. It's like when you really think about it, the like the kids are doing everything. Like it's so heartbreaking when the dad is so mind controlled and so possessed by the mirror. He's not even buying groceries for them to eat anymore.
Yeah.
And Tim as a kid, he's just
it's
like,
on my list,
the little boy, he's just like, I'm hungry. They haven't eaten in like 2 days outside of maybe like little bits and pieces of like cereal and like maybe some, just cans of soup or something. That's like all they've been having to eat for days. It's like, man, it's tough because like as a kid, like you are so at the whim of your parents.
Yeah.
Even when they go to help, all it takes is the dad to say, in 10 seconds, like worth of dialogue, oh, they're having a hard time, she's lashing out, and the guy believes her.
Yeah.
As everyone is programmed to, not believe the kid.
Yep.
And it's very, very tragic because that shit happens all the time in real life. It's fucked up. And then just like the idea of like, and the kids really sell it too. Like all the sequences where like the parents are attacking them, and all that's holding them at bay is like the bedroom door. It's like, oh man, it's really, really rough,
dude. When she jumps out of the second story window,
yeah,
just watching her land and then just roll around in pain afterwards, like that is something that you could do if you had to save your life, but it's gonna hurt.
Gonna fucking suck. Yeah. And it's also really cool to see like how her character correlates in the past timeline with the present. Like she is a fucking fighter.
Yeah.
And it ends up being her undoing, but you have to admire like just like the extent to which she goes to try to get revenge for her family. And she's also just trying to like she's pissed off at like her family's reputation too. She has a couple lines of dialogue with the brother about how like she not only wants to clear her brother's record fully because her brother, ended up in an institution for 10 years for killing, and like when you see that he didn't even really kill the dad basically pulled the trigger on himself. That adds an extra layer of heartbreak because like the kid didn't even really do it.
Right.
But man.
Yeah, and I just, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is how much of the dad wanting to die was the dad or the mirror.
It's interesting too. It's like there's actually like a parallel between the last moment with the dad and the last moment with the mom, when they have just like that look on their face where they finally realize what's happening and they are able to kind of just stop themselves because of how much they love the kids. Is really tragic.
I couldn't figure out if it was that or the mirror just released them long enough to see what they were doing.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Because like I said, it seems to feed off of things suffering and withering more than just sucking life force. If it's just sucking life force, like it should be able to, to just hang on the wall and be fine. But it seems to need, or at least want to cause all the suffering that it can.
Yeah, true.
Like it's using these people up and then moving on.
Yeah, or maybe it needs things to be in like a state of sickness as well in order to be able to feed off of it. Because if you notice, like the first thing that happens with the dog is it needs the dog to become sick, and like obviously like the mom and the dad are just beyond fucked up by the end. Not just like mentally not there, but just like the level to which they all have to be malnourished because they haven't fucking eaten in days.
Right.
Like they just And there's also like a cool thing where the first time the dad has the scene, you know, like where he fucks up his fingernail with the staple remover, you start hearing whispers of no pain, no pain, no pain.
Yeah.
So it's like making them not be aware of like the horror around them, so they'll keep doing it. It's like, man, it's like there's a lot of like just like really really confident work with the mirror and what it's after, how it works, and it's all in just like these like little quick cuts of, you know, character interactions or, you know, like the whispers and stuff, and you don't fully fucking understand like how it's doing it, what it's doing exactly, and why it's doing it. It's so good.
Yeah, I was thinking also about like the fact that she had alarms set up for them to eat and drink regularly and stuff. Like, it seemed like it needed them to like stay in a period of weakness to have like the most effect on them. So
Yeah.
she had everything set up to be constantly like eating and drinking water and like staying strong to kind of resist it, to help resist it. But one thing I forgot that I wanted to talk about is we need to talk about her fiance's death.
But what's also fucked up, you don't even fully know if she did it or not by the end of it.
Yeah.
Because she...
I get the feeling she did because he keeps like he starts showing up like the other ghosts do.
True. Yeah, but then again,
dude, when she
you don't know.
When she pulls out her cell phone to like look at the floor, it's like, which one is the real one, the screen or what is actually on the floor?
Yeah, there's a lot of trippy shit happening when you don't know what's actually there.
Yeah,
and who's there. Yeah, but when she is holding, is it like a piece of like the potted plant?
Yeah, it's a piece of the like terracotta pot that the plant was in.
She has a vision.
It was Walter White's worst nightmare in season 1. Basically, when he reassembled the plate to see if all the pieces were there.
I forget when she reacts and stabs him, is she having a vision of her dad or her mom? I think it might be the mom.
I think it's the mom.
She has a vision.
The mom was the one that pursued them around the house. I think it was the mom.
Yeah, she has a quick vision of her mom attacking her from behind, and she just quickly, while holding that shard of the potted plant, just like 180s around. As you do.
Just drove it right into her fucking neck.
Yeah, just a full-on descent mode on the poor fiance. Yeah, and she stabs her fiance in the neck, killing him. But did she? You don't know, because
she?
What she shows, like you said, like she's like using her phone camera to fact check, but you don't know if that's actually fact checking it. You really don't know. And then she talks about how she can't be sure if the person calling, because she's having the fiance call her every hour on the hour, like 5 seconds after she stabs him and kills him, she gets the call. So you don't know. You can't you don't know what to believe, and you can't know what to believe because everything could be a lie, everything could be real. And you see the mirror eyes of the fiance, but you don't know, because typically the people that were actually like permanently associated with the mirror are like the actual like victims, as far as like who's been being possessed by it, not necessarily just like kind of offshoot victims. So I actually don't think she ever killed the fiance. I think it just made her think that she did. But
that's true. But also, isn't he by extension a victim of the mirror?
No, but what I was saying is
it's not like it's lashing out to get him, right?
What I was saying is that the people that are like conduits and like sticking around are the people that were possessed by the mirror, not the people who are just victims of the mirror. So that's why I think it was just for show. And you also only see them rolling out one body at the end when the cops show up. You don't see them ever talk about there being like multiple bodies, and you only ever see her being rolled out.
That's true.
So I think the fiance is fine, but you don't know. It's up to interpretation, and it makes it even creepier and upsetting that you don't know for sure. Because like let's talk about the ending, man.
Oh my god!
So
I knew that no good was gonna come of this. As soon as I saw it,
I don't think we've talked about it specifically, but her main contingency plan for
they
this
allude to it happening like twice.
Yeah,
before it happens.
So her main contingency plan for what she thinks will keep them safe from this mirror is she has a boat anchor that is attached to the ceiling on what is basically like a catapult mechanism.
It's a pivot,
where, yeah, where if they don't reset this like custom like kitchen timer like
it's
every
mechanical.
hour.
It's a mechanical timer. It doesn't really depend on power or anything. They have to manually reset it every 30 minutes.
Yeah. And basically she's saying it's a smart idea where she's basically saying like, if the mirror just straight up kills us, the mirror kills itself because we won't be there to stop the mechanism, you know, like the mirror is going to get crushed by it, because they've confirmed that the mirror can be at least damaged a little bit, because when the dad is shot, I forget, but there's a crack in the mirror from one of the altercations with the dad.
Yeah, they tried to attack it, but you can't attack it directly. They thought they were hitting it, but they were actually hitting the walls next to it. But when he shoots the dad, it goes through the dad and hits the corner.
Yeah,
and
there's like one crack. I don't think I talked about it, but what a great fucking like line when she is.
I hope it fucking hurt.
A great line that like early on establishes like what the fuck is going on when she is at her warehouse thing after she's acquired the mirror, and she drops down the sheet covering it, and she says, "Oh, I bet you're hungry." And you're just like, "Oh fuck, dude." That's a great line, because you're just like, "Oh shit, dude.
Yeah.
What is gonna happen? What is this backstory?" It really, really draws you in. But yeah, so there's just a fucking brilliant like 20-minute segment of this where it is constantly interjecting sequences of both the characters in their present age and when they were kids, and you basically have like a parallel of the story unfolding and them fully telling you what happened on the last night in the house with the mirror, you know, like 12 years earlier or whatever it was, and the current storyline of the brother and sister in the present. And what's really cool too is like you're constantly seeing like she'll be her adult self running past like Tim as a little boy and vice versa.
They interchange, yeah.
They interchange constantly, and it's just so cool.
Sometimes
like,
what is happening now, it's them as a child rather than them as adult.
And what's interesting too is they have a couple of scenes where it almost looks like how the adult versions are getting visions of their younger selves. It also looks like the younger selves are seeing visions of the older ones in the past.
Right.
It starts to get very, very, and it's funny that it's Amy Pond, but very timey-wimey with like what's happening. And it's so cool because
there's a crack in the wall.
There's a crack in the mirror.
Right.
Because they show that scene where adult Tim looks into his bedroom and young Tim reacts to him almost like he can see him, but obviously he doesn't know like what he's gonna look like you might have a good estimation what you're gonna look like in the future, but you don't know for sure. And he just looks at him like kind of like, you know, puzzled. But man, and it's this cutting back and forth of the dad trying to kill them, the mom chasing after them, and Katie Sackhoff is fucking terrifying when she's full blown feral mode going after the kids. Like, oof, it's hard to watch, and it's just cutting back and forth like just so expertly. But you never really feel like lost when you're watching it either. It always feels very, very honed in. It never feels like jumbled. Like this like portion of the movie easily could be a mess.
Oh yeah.
If you had like worse editing going on, it's just really, really well done. But Karen Gillan is seeing a vision of her mom in the mirror,
reaching out of the mirror. Yeah,
reaching out of the mirror, holding out her arms to her with a very like loving look on her face, and it's her healthy self again. She's not, you know, like fucked up from the events of the mirror, and she starts walking towards her mom, and she actually hugs her mom through the mirror.
I can't remember. Was this her as a child?
Yes, it's her as a child.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
She is shown as her young self, like walking towards the mirror to hug her mom. What Tim is seeing is he sees nothing in front of the mirror, and he sees a chance to go and release the kitchen timer to kill the mirror by using the boat anchor. And he just quickly, like with a smile on his face, he thinks he has the upper hand. He quickly runs to the mechanism, kills the timer to release the boat anchor, and you just hear a crunch. And when you see just how she's been hit by it, man, is
dude.
devastating.
That is a brutal way to go.
Yeah. And is
and
1,000%.
She's
like,
alive for a moment, just looking at her own reflection in that mirror.
A lot, and it's a cool choice too. On to your point, a lot of what you see of Tim and Kaylee's reactions to this moment is shown in reflections from the mirror.
Right.
You mostly just see them as reflections, like in just looking at absolute horror at what has occurred. And then the reflections from the mirror, because it's killed her. It's pinned her kind of like right beneath her neck.
Yeah.
And and she's pressed up against the mirror, but because she blocked the blow, the mirror is fine. And because of a sequence about 20 minutes before this, where where Tim's not sure if he was able to get a 911 call off or not, the cops show up at this exact moment, and you see the flashes of the cop cars, and you're just like, oh my god.
And there's cameras all in the room.
Yeah.
It
sucks.
And then you see her in the window with the mom and dad watching him leave.
Yeah,
in the back of the
there's
cop car.
And it's fucking genius because what happened in the past was the dad basically pushed the trigger while his son was holding the gun to kill himself. So they are cutting back and forth of Tim being taken away by the police as a kid and for killing the dad, and now being taken away by the police for killing his sister.
Yeah.
And it's just cutting back and forth. And oh my god, dude, it just like fucking breaks your heart because this guy, like, and he is screaming, "It wasn't me, it was the mirror," both as a kid and as an adult. But you just,
oh my god, and if the fiance is alive, she told him that she was afraid to be alone with her ex-incarcerated brother.
Yep.
Oh,
it sucks, dude.
Oh,
it sucks. But yeah, he is shown in the back of the cop car, both as a kid and an adult. In the past, he saw his mom and dad standing inside the house, looking out with the mirror eyes, like fully, like fully possessed and now conduits of the mirror, whatever the fuck is happening with them. And then it like hard cuts to, like you said, you see his sister now with the mirror eyes in the standing inside the house, looking out through the window. And it's just like, man, what an ending. It's because it like sits with you there for a minute.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, it's hard to watch because you're just like, man, because like your brain starts to make those like connections of like fast forwarding the story, and it's just like what he has to live with now, like just and knowing that mirror is out there, and and he'll never get out of jail now.
Yeah, and
he'll never be able to do anything about it, and the mirror is just gonna get and because like the mirror is probably, unless they reject it because of a fucking homicide happening next to it, but that mirror is going to that family that fucking won the auction, and it just the story continues. And it's just like, what a fucking awesome concept for like an ongoing series of short films or short stories, just like the stories of that mirror. It's such a cool Lovecraftian concept, and Karen Gillan's character is just like, it's so interesting that like her ace in the hole, like that boat anchor, it being what kills her in her pursuit to learn more about this mirror and to defeat it when she had no business challenging it, is 10,000% Lovecraftian.
That and another through line we didn't mention was the dad killing himself.
Yeah,
that is a very Lovecraftian thing too. A lot of the stories end or even start with a character having learned some information and committing suicide.
And another Lovecraftian thing that we talk about with like The Thing and stuff is how they, they document and have journals, and
Yeah.
she has video journals of it,
Yeah.
of the whole process. That's another thing. It's like fucking depressing ending, but
I just
very,
sat
very-
there and watched the credits scroll and did not know what to think, what to say, what to do.
it like hurts your soul, dude.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch because it's like you can't help but feel a connection to the characters because it just feels like a real family that got fucked over by this fucking cursed ass object. It's
Yeah,
Man.
the thing that really sells it too is when times are good in this family, none of the relationships in the family feel forced. Like they feel like a family. Like they don't have any weird bits of dialogue like nobody talks like that, or they don't act a certain way that it's like no, they talk and act like real fucking people.
That is the thing that specifically carries over to Haunting of Hill House. They are a family because Haunting of Hill House is similar in how it's telling the story of what happened at the house in the past and now with some of the characters grown up. And the characters feel the exact same way. Like he's very good at writing what feels like organic families instead of like contrived Hollywood families for a movie that would never exist in real life.
Yeah.
He's fantastic at making them seem like very down to earth, even when the creepy like supernatural shit is happening around them. And like that's like one of the main things that is really hard to convey in horror is you don't have a lot of time to connect your audience like to your characters and make them to care enough to where like this ending could have as big of an impact as it can. Because usually you're just like, oh, people got killed in the horror movie. Who gives a shit? This ending happened. You're just like, fuck, dude. Like you feel it. You feel it. Expertly done. even though it's fucking, it is like expert at making you feel sad. But you cannot turn away because this is so fucking well done.
Two things that were really well done too that I wanted to mention. You mentioned her like video diary. I forgot to talk about. I love the argument that they had, and then they turn around and realize like, when did we come out here? Oh, and they go back in like everything in the room is turned, and when you watch the video back, they're having the argument while moving the cameras and moving the plants and all stuff. And neither one of them remembered doing it, but they have on video that they did it.
It is so good.
It's so good. And then the other thing I wanted to mention that was really well done is look in the Discord at an image I sent you.
Mm-hmm.
That image is when the brother was standing in the doorway watching her reset everything. And this was what he saw. Like, that is so fucking good. Which one is the real one? Is she standing in front of the camera, or is she behind the computer resetting everything?
You don't know. You don't know a fucking like. It's like the ultimate like non-reliable narrator. Like you have no clue what to believe.
The story itself is the unreliable narrator.
Yeah, it's so interesting in how like
the way that this movie is constructed is endlessly fascinating to me.
Yeah, and what's cool too, like you could watch this multiple times, and that's not gonna help you. Because it's not like it's a math equation to solve. You don't know. Fucking 90% of the last 30 minutes might not have happened, and you don't know.
Yeah.
You like they could have been having all of these, in the current time when they split up, you don't even know if they split up. They could have been in the same room.
Remember when they were outside and they saw themselves in front of the mirror and they didn't know if they were outside or inside?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know if they were looking at themselves for real, because if they were standing in front of the mirror and they didn't know the anchor was getting ready to drop, and they just didn't know if they were standing outside or if what they were looking at was real, them inside looking at the mirror. And you don't know either as the audience member.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you're losing. I felt disconnected from my body when I was done watching this damn movie.
Yeah, 'cause it's so fucking fascinating, and I would love for him to have like a follow up to this that is just like because I could see him now, like after all this time, obviously it'd be different characters, but how cool would it be if like it was a story of like a future family and you saw like Karen Gillan as like like the new main figurehead of
Right.
it would be really cool.
Instead of Marisol or whatever.
Yeah, because you could do some like really cool stuff because it's like a perpetually usable concept. Like you could apply this to like anything, and you just have a new horror story with a new family having creepy shit happening, and when it's so like disorienting that it's like fascinating. It's like I just love I love when I can't trust what I'm seeing in the movie, and instead of it being like a cop out, it's like it adds to like the tension of it, and just like with the way this movie ends, it's just like oof.
It
Love
takes full advantage of its medium, right? Like it takes full advantage of being a movie. It's doing a thing that would never come across in a book, right?
Yeah.
Like as a player in a video game, you know what you did. Like this can only work in a film,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes full advantage of that, and that I love it for it.
Yeah, fucking
I hate
phenomenal,
it,
man.
but I love it.
Yeah. It is like the ultimate fucking train wreck that you can't turn away from because you're just like, oh man, these people are fucked.
And just from a story basis alone, if I mean, the idea that the movie has already happened, right? Like what the backstory of these two characters, of this brother and sister, would be the movie from most writers and directors. So the fact that it's already happened and it's these siblings trying to get revenge on an object rather than seeing the thing play out before our very eyes, it's just such a simple way to reconstruct a horror movie. It's almost dissecting, its own genre.
Yeah, because like this is a type of like presentation for a story that is predominantly in like science fiction.
Yeah.
Like this is something you would see in like an Inception type thing, not a horror movie. So it's like genius in how it's like interwoven. I found like an interesting like little tidbit that just shows you like you were talking about like you felt disoriented, like you were like one of the characters. They actually were finding it disorienting when writing the two constantly shifting timelines until they actually came up with the idea of writing all the scenes in the script where it's in the past in italics. So that's how they were able to quickly shift and be able to like even track themselves when the story's happening in the past. They had to use italics when it's in the past. I love that.
Jesus. They
Also,
were even walking in circles.
Another thing that just shows like fucking masterclass. They filmed this entire movie in 3 weeks.
I mean, I could see that. There's no real crazy special effects. It's all one setting. There's no travel, no hotels. There's, it's all taking place in a house. Your main star is an object hanging on a wall.
I would love to just like talk to them and find out how long this took to edit, because I could see that being a nightmare sorting through like all that footage and being able to like even like the logistics of like putting that shit into like like whatever like Adobe or whatever editing program they're using,
Yeah.
Like what is it?
Shit, just ask Mike Flanagan on. I'm sure he'll come on the show.
Yeah, he's the old buddy of the podcast. Yeah.
Hop on over to Screenplay Rewind and do an interview.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, if you liked this, and it sounds like you did, like I gotta get you to watch some of his other shit. Some of his other movies. I can tell you pretty much everything else is not this level of like soul crushing. Like they're still as creepy. Like it's always creepy because he's just a fucking master at that shit of like creeping me the fuck out.
I wonder if this hit me two different ways. It's hard to tell because, I am someone's child, but I'm also someone's father.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if this hit me like just a 1-2 punch. I don't know. It's
it
hard.
also-
It's hard to sort through it all.
It also just like hits me just like a personal thing. My mother actually has bipolar disorder, so this really hits home for me because I think back to moments when I was a little kid, and like before my mother's actually started taking like official medication for it. I remember moments as a little kid, you know, like maybe like as a preteen, having a conversation with my mom, and it didn't seem like I was having a conversation with my mom. So like, I can
Jesus.
so easily put myself in the shoes of these kids. This movie is like legitimately scary to me, basically all throughout, and it hits home so specifically, and it's such a fucking good movie that, man, I'm glad it sounded like you liked it though.
Yeah. No, in all honesty, I really liked it, but it's not an easy watch.
It's a doozy.
I was exhausted when I was done watching it.
And now you can never look at your light bulbs in the house the same way again. You're welcome.
They're so tasty looking. Yeah, so juicy.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Did you have any other tidbits or any other topics that you want to talk about? I think I pretty much covered everything.
I think I'm good.
Fucking delete this from your mind and never think about it again.
I think I'm just.
Have you destroyed all of the mirrors or at least covered them up in your household?
I've tried, but everything I do just keeps landing next to them.
Have you removed staple removers from your household?
I burned them in the outside fireplace.
No, you just thought you did. They're still in the house.
Shit.
Oh god.
Those were my Transformers. Damn you, mirror.
Oh, the humanity. Oh god. So we had mentioned about how we were gonna run My Choices next back to back.
I don't know about that no more.
So that's
I think you're done, sir.
Yeah, you lost the keys to the kingdom.
I'm gonna need the keys to the car back, sport.
Mm-hmm. So since Ron double featured Tremors 1 and 2, we were gonna have two of My Choices back to back, and since I just traumatized you, I decided to go easy on the next selection. So we're watching Oculus again.
Ah!
Geoff is the non-reliable narrator. Our next show is going to be covering The Nice Guys.
Ooh, that's been on my list to cover on the podcast for a while.
Same, and I had been wanting an excuse to rewatch it because The Nice Guys is fucking fantastic.
Russell Crowe do it for you?
Yeah, Russell Crowe being in Thor: Love and Thunder is just like, you know what? Let's watch the fucking Nice Guys, dude.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So if you have not seen it, you have to see it because The Nice Guys is one of the best, maybe like my favorite comedy of the last like 10 years. It's just so fucking genius.
Oh,
I
it's
love
so
it so much.
good. It's so good.
Fucking, yeah, Nice Guys. I think it came out in 2016, written and directed by Shane
Sounds
Black.
right.
And stars Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. Fucking amazing. Watch the movie, please.
I did not care for Ryan Gosling until I saw that movie.
He's so it's not fair for Ryan Gosling to look like he does and be as funny as that motherfucker is.
I don't
like, please.
understand. The amount of physical comedy even he did in that movie and pulled it off.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my God.
a lot of blood. I can't wait. Just that movie, you know how like Oculus is soul crushing and makes you just like question reality and just be sad and stare at your TV in solemn silence for like 10 minutes? The Nice Guys puts me in a good mood for like the rest of the day just because it's fucking awesome. It's so much fun.
Yoo-hoo?
The performances are amazing. Just like please watch it so you can follow along in a couple of weeks.
Oh
And,
my God.
Yeah. If you want to follow the show more, we're on Twitter at SPR Filmcast. Any ratings or reviews you can give us on whichever platform you found us on always helps us out. And, just want to throw it out there. Share it out to your friends if you think you know someone that might enjoy the show. That's really the only way that podcasts can grow
Does
anymore.
Grandma
because
love
there's-
Oculus? She might love this episode.
If your grandma loves Oculus,
Your grandma's awesome.
she's pretty fucking awesome. She might also be planning to murder you in your sleep.
You just, or is it even your grandma?
Yeah, it might not actually be. It could just be the mirror. Does she have reflections? Does she?
It dawned on me that their eyes were mirror and not just glowing like a dog in the police lights, the red and blue police lights.
Oh yeah,
that's when it dawned on me. That's how stupid I am.
Well, in your defense,
there's a lot going on.
You were being traumatized in real time for like an hour and 45 minutes, so it's not your fault, man. It's not your fault. It's okay. It's all right, bud. Now you'll know for the next time you watch it. The next time you're going out of your way to question reality and feel miserable about what happens to this poor family.
I question reality every time I open Twitter. I don't need anything else to help me do that.
At what point when you're watching this movie, you were just like, oh God, what did Geoff sign me up for? Was the fingernail thing when you text me, fuck you, sir, in vertically in all caps at 2 o'clock in the morning? Was that the moment?
No, I think the vertical text. It's never good when you get the vertical text. No, I think it was when they have the foreshadowing of the dad getting shot with the juice box on his shirt. And then he walks past the office and there's someone there that when he turns around, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how I told you when I get like super tired, like I see things in the corner of my eye, or like I see people like move across the house in the corner of my eye. It's like that for me. It's exactly what he saw. And when that happened, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, so it hit home like real hard for you. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the shadow.
It's funny.
The shadow people I've come to find out they're called. And I'm not the only one, by the way.
It's funny, like, what specific moments in horror movies or like horror novels that like will hit home more for one person than another, just based off like an actual like real life thing like that. It's like fascinating.
Speaking of Amy Pond, like the first time that it's like the first or second episode with her, before they reveal like what the thing is living in her house and the door she didn't know was there because you can only see it out of the corner of your eye. When that whole episode was about the thing living in the corner of your eye, just outside of your vision, I was like, no, sir.
And that was the last episode of Doctor Who that Ron ever got to watch. The Shadow People won. Oh God!
Google it. People all around the world report the Shadow People. There's all kinds of fun conspiracy theories about them.
Oh, I believe you on both accounts.
Apparently, they like rule governments and things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's great. You should Google it.
So the Shadow People voted Trump in the White House. Is that what happened?
That's how it happened.
That makes sense.
That's how it happened.
That's what we do. We find this mirror and just send it to Trump Tower, and everything will take care of itself.
Just see how it plays out.
Oh God.
I can't think of a better note.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
That's a lot.
And have a good night. Please cover up all your mirrors, please.
I'm covering my computer monitor as we speak.
Anything with a reflection, either is the
Doctor
Oculus
Strange
mirror.
did that one too.
Yeah, I was about to say everything with a mirror is out to get you. If Doctor Strange 2 and the Oculus have
mirrors and the Black Mirror.
Yeah. Just throw away your phone. Yeah, don't worry. Just everything needs to go. Bye, everybody.